everybody. Today I want to share with you my thoughts about the movie Pride. It is such a heartwarming, feel-good, nuanced movie. I think it's just a movie any marginalized group needs to watch right now to help us remember that we are stronger together and that until all of us are free, none of us are free. So basically, this is a movie about gay and lesbian people in the 80s in London who decided that they were going to support the miners' strike because Margaret Thatcher, who was prime minister at the time. Side note, I used to really kind of like worship Margaret Thatcher because she was a woman and she was prime minister of England. Little did I know about her policies. So anyways, Margaret Thatcher wanted to close some mines, which would mean the miners would lose their job. So they were on strike for like lots of months and they needed money because they needed to go to the picket lines and they needed to give food to the families of the miners who weren't earning money. So these gay and lesbian people decided to raise funds to support them, to show solidarity because they could identify with the oppression. You see, sometimes even though we are being oppressed, we have the mindset of the oppressor, so we take any opportunity to oppress those we find different from us or that we deem undeserving. But really, no matter what you believe, you should be working together with all the oppressed group, because they can oppress one group today and they can come for you tomorrow. Quick note, there were some complaints that this movie didn't have a diverse enough cast and that it didn't use Welsh actors to portray Welsh people. But I did see some interviews where people who the movie were based on did like it. So take that grain of salt with everything. And you can look it up for yourself if you want to know more. The movie also shows some of the struggles that they faced, and you can see some of that in the trailer that we're about to watch right now.
With the strike now entering its fourth month and in the face of unprecedented violence, the government today insisted it will close 20 pits with the loss of over 20,000 jobs.
Without that pit, these villages are finished.
Mining communities are being bullied just like we are. What they need is cash.
Yeah, because the miners have always come to our aid, haven't they?
It doesn't matter. It's the right thing to do.
So we are going to pick a mining town completely at random.
Wales.
Your gays have arrived.
Don't meet everybody. Name the group you represent in this case.
Lesbians and gays support the miners.
I'm hoping you can clear something up for me about lesbians. It did surprise me.
Let them get settled in first, shall we?
Who?
A gaggle of gays and lesbians has come out in favour of the miners' strike.
We've been backed up by perverts.
We've been through some of the same things you've been through. Look, we raised this money because we want to help you, and that's it.
Everything will be all right once they start to mix.
What the hell do you think you're doing? Get out there and find a gay or a lesbian right now.
I don't want to give them the wrong impression.
Right, because you're so bloody irresistible.
Every day they're out collecting for us.
What they're really doing is pushing their own agenda.
You better shut her mouth or I'm gonna do it.
That's enough. It's you lot, is it? The gays?
Yes, lesbians and gays support the miners.
What's going on?
Thank you. Yeah. When you're in a battle against an enemy so much bigger, so much stronger than you, but to find out you had a friend you never knew existed, well, that's the best feeling in the world.
What I was told about lesbians can't be true, can it? You're all vegetarians.
You see what we've done here? By pledging our friendship, we've made history.
Sorry, this is a men only.
Oh, don't be daft.
We want to see everything, even the rubber scene. Where are my lesbians?
What's this? God, that takes me back.
Don't those women ever sleep?
The first thing I want to point out is that you should not give up. So we see them calling the National Union, and the National Union does not want the money from the gays. But then they come up with a plan to call the towns themselves and the town ends up accepting the money. So they could have given up, or they could have not been true to themselves and not said that they were a gay group. However, they stuck to their guns and they got someone to work with. Now, another note here is that apparently in real life they didn't choose the town at random, because in the movie they show you they just pull out a map and just pick a town. However, they chose the town because they didn't like where the union was sending the money, and they wanted to send the money to the people who were really affected by the strike. But again, picking a town at random makes for a more dramatic movie. So that was like really cool. So what we need to know in the different movements going on right now: don't give up. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Now it's worth noting here that up until that time, the gay movement in the UK could not get the Labour Party to push their agenda because the unions were some of the main people, the most vocal people blocking it, especially the miners' union. And remember that, okay? Just remember. Now, throughout the movie, we see that even though the two groups, the miners and the gay and lesbians, are totally different, they can go past those differences to work together and to support each other, to show solidarity. Now, this whole movie, why I say it's nuanced, is it's happening in the 80s. It's happening against the background of the AIDS epidemic, and it's happening against it being life-threatening. You can lose your job if you're gay, police harassment, and all of that. Even though this is not at the forefront of the movie, it acknowledges it. Like, I didn't live through it, so I cannot say for sure, but it seems realistic in the way it was portrayed. And one of those ways that this was like done is in the two different outing stories. So there's one story of a very young guy, and he's the official photographer of the group, and his family find the pictures and the article clippings, and so he doesn't get to come out on his own terms, and his family try to make him stop being gay, and then eventually like they disown him and they basically kick him out because he was living at home with his parents. Within that storyline, they show us that at the time the age of consent was different for gay people than for heterosexual people. And the other story is with the older miner who comes out over buttering some bread to make sandwiches to his friend. And it's so heartwarming. He goes, "I'm gay." And she's like, "Yeah, I know. I've known for a while." And he says, "Did you know when the gays came?" And she's like, "No, I've known since 1968. And then it's like nothing. I want for us to live in the world where when someone comes out as gay, it's like, okay, and it doesn't change anything. I know for a lot of people that happens, but for a lot of people, even today, it's not the story. So that was like really nice how they portrayed those two storylines. Overall, what I liked about this movie, other than the little nuances of the storyline and the fact that the movie was just so engaging, it kept me wanting to watch it, and when I was done I felt so uplifted, and after all of that I kind of wanted to watch it again, was the theme, the interwoven theme throughout, that we work together and it's better for all of us if we work together. One scene where the miner guy talks to, I think Mark is his name, about the flag that they have, and the flag has hands holding together, and he talks about how if we work together we can all prosper. And then like the best scene, the most like dramatic, played up for effect, is the ending scene. So two things I want to point out, because they're about to do the Gay Pride match, and The first thing is that they don't want they don't want them to have banners and signs. They don't want the match to be a protest. They want it to be more of a party. Now, I don't know enough about gay pride history and all of that, but that has been a continuing conversation in various communities about when it is right to protest, when it's right to party. And even last summer, the George Floyd protest, you saw sometimes like parties being praised and people trying to tell people how to protest. So they didn't really delve into that, but that the fact that it was in there, just made the movie yes. So the minors came to the gay pride match, and that was so cool because they show you all these minors, so many minors that the group that was just categorized as a fringe group and had to go in the back of the match is now in the front of the match because so many minors came to support the gay and lesbian people. Throughout the movie, there's all these funny scenes. One of my favorite is when they have bought a new bus to shuttle them back and forth between the picket lines, and the bus is branded gay and lesbian support the minors, and some people don't want to ride the bus. But what are you gonna do? It's the only bus. Because of this little group and their idea and raising so much funds and making connections with the minors, the gay movement moved forward in the UK because the minors were able to support the Labour Party bringing forward legislation to give gay people rights. And because of that cooperation, that's one of the pillars of why there are so many gay rights in the UK today. So overall, I really wholeheartedly recommend this movie. Have you heard of this story before? Have you watched the movie before? You can watch it, I believe, on Amazon and some other different streaming platforms depending on the month, because sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not. You can it's included with Prime on Amazon, or it's free 99 to rent, and the other platforms, Apple TV and some others, it's about the same thing. So if you haven't watched this movie, I highly recommend you watch it. It's just so good to remind us that we're stronger together. And to leave you with an interview from one of the people who this movie is based on. This interview is such a good synopsis of everything, and he precisely says why we should all be working together. Gays, minorities, immigrants, all oppressed communities working together so that we all are free. I really think everyone should watch it. So here you go, enjoy.
Well, 30 years ago, the Thatcher government had got in for its second time, and it had picked a fight with the miners' union, intent on closing a huge number of British coal mines. And this would have devastated the mining communities. It would have thrown hundreds of thousands of people onto the dole. Those communities were dependent on the industry. So the miners fought back and went on strike, and it was the biggest strike in British trade union history. We had common cause with the miners. The miners were being demonised by the British media. The government was demonising them. The Thatcher government famously referred to the miners as the enemy within. This is our own British miners, the enemy within. And the police were harassing them. We see at the Battle of Orgreave how the police kettled the miners there and beat them to a pulp. And as lesbians and gay men, we were facing similar things at the time for different reasons, obviously. But lesbians and gay men were also routinely harassed by the police. The courts would stop lesbians having custody of their own children simply because they were lesbians. The police would raid our pubs and clubs. Customs and Excise raided our bookshop, Gays Aware bookshop. and the media was forever just demonising us. So there was actually quite a lot that we had in common, but we never really expected, once we started to support them, to get the return support that we got from them. It was absolutely astonishing. Sadly, the miners lost that particular battle, although that process continues to today. But what the miners did, and we never asked for this, what the miners did is they actually came on the Gay Pride March in 1985 with their Miners' Lodge banner and their families. And then in October, following them losing the fight in March, they said in advance that they were going to support the lesbian and gay propositions, and because they supported it, the rest of the trade union movement and the Labour Party followed. And I would say that the reason we've made such tremendous advances in terms of equalities and legislation in Britain for the LGBT community can be directly traced back to the British coal miners, and I just think that's fantastic. That's the way it ought to be. We need to move forward in solidarity. We need to stop beating each other up. We need to fight racism. We need to stop beating immigrants up, and we need to come together and unite.